I'm here with Emanur Rahman from Onkho Practice Management Software. Say hello, Man.
Hello.
Hello. And today we're going to be talking about Onkho Practice Management Software and, more importantly, Practice Management 2.0. Let's get started. If I could introduce you, just turn your camera on, Iman, and then, I'm in there, and then we'll go. I knew there's going to be a challenge with your name. If you'd have seen the rehearsals before this conversation, then...
No comment.
I've been nothing but tongue-tied all morning. But anyway, I am going to shut up because you're not here to listen to me and hand over and give you a warm round of applause. Go!
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm just going to share my screen here. Can you, Simon or Mark, if you guys can just confirm that my slides are being seen, that'd be great.
I can't see them at the moment.
All right, hang on a second. All the more reason to do a tech check. Here we go. How about that? Fantastic. Superb.
We're away now.
Okay, thank you so much for the introduction, Simon. I suppose I'm going to get started, but as is normally the case, we are going to start with a few slides and then I'm going to kind of get into the demo. I just want to thank Simon and Mark for their help and entertainment this morning. I mean, when Simon says he was tongue-tied, he's not joking, I'm telling you. So look, I'm Emanur Rahman. I'm one of the co-founders here at Onkho. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I actually, about 4 years ago, I was a chief technology officer at the London Stock Exchange. And about 15, 20 years prior to that, I was an accountant at BBC Radio. So I kind of, wear the technologist and the accountant hat at the same time. And there is a third element to my introduction, but I'm going to cover that as when we talk about how Onkho kind of came about. So today, what I want to kind of focus in on in terms of the demo is actually this topic, which is about unlocking practice management data. And the reason is very simple, actually. Practice management solutions collect an awful amount of data if you actually sat down and think about it. And unlocking that is the key to, if you like, not only just getting a custom experience that suits your practice, but actually valuable insights and ways of running your business. And that's hopefully what I'm going to show you today as part of the demo. But as I say, there are some quick slides that I need to run through before we dive into the meat of this. So I'm going to start with a story, and the story starts in 2008. And don't worry, I'm not covering every year in between. So 2008, very, very simple. The third wheel in my story is actually my wife. My wife, Susan Rahman, she runs a busy accounting practice in South Wimbledon here in London. She had, back in 2008, about 8 staff, run about the same as today, 8 staff, about 400 clients. And it's a family business. So I've been helping her run that business for quite some time. And on top of that, being the IT guy, I'm kind of the free IT support, right? So 2008, what actually happened was that Sue hit a very significant problem in her business. She's always enjoyed a very high conversion rate with clients, kind of 9 out of 10. I'm kind of jealous of that, to be honest. But yeah, she converts 9 out of 10 people. But in 2008, she found that she was adding clients, but she wasn't actually growing. And the reason is she had a leaky bucket. What was happening actually was that people were leaving the practice as fast as she was adding new business. Now, that may be something that some of you may have experienced at some point in your business journey. Now, Susan looked at that, and what she found was that, honestly, and I know we talk about it a lot these days, is client expectations have changed. It's not that the service or the compliance product has changed, but actually the demands of service have changed. We can blame Dell, we can blame Amazon, we can blame Pizza Hut, delivery experience, whatever. But the point is that, she had this churn problem, and it was caused by clients actually changing their expectations of service. And that's actually what led to Onkho. So I want to just be clear here. And this is the reason why I'm telling you the story, is that the roots of Onkho are not actually in workflow. They're not actually in productivity efficiency. The roots of Onkho are actually in fixing that client retention problem. And very much the focus here at Onkho is all about how do you keep clients? How do you deliver a service that clients actually, want to pay for and stay for? And that leads me kind of neatly to Practice Management 2.0. So Practice Management 2.0 is something that we think is the reboot of practice management. I think it's time for a reboot because so many things have changed in the industry, not least of which is the advent of mastermind groups like this, right? People are thinking about the business differently, thinking about their clients differently. People are thinking about their practice differently. So it is time for a reboot of practice management, and that's what we call Practice Management 2.0. It is very much alive and well and being developed here at Onkho in conjunction with our customers. And to us, this is now the definition of practice management. It is the art of delivering a service your clients are willing to pay for, and harking back to our churn story, and stay for. Because with this one in the world, getting the people, there's a lot of discussion and kind of thought leadership around sales and marketing and proposals and getting people in through the door. But as accountants, we have a significant advantage, right, in our customer base, which is that once they're in through the door, you should be able to count on them staying with you for a long period of time. And the more you keep the clients, the better it's going to be, because as I'm sure you all know, it is far more expensive to find a new client than to keep an existing one. So that then is Practice Management 2.0. I do have a handout for you guys, which will be made available later on in this session. So don't worry, you'll get a little bit more detail about PM 2.0 as we go through, and also through the course of the demo, I'll be illustrating some of those concepts. The last thing I want to cover very quickly before we get into the demo is just explain who Onkho serves. No platform can be all things to all men, and we're certainly not that. Our sweet spot is basically owners at inflection points. And the definition of an inflection point for us is simply along the road in your business journey. There are lots of different bumps that you're going to encounter. And it's when the owner's needs are not being serviced, that's when people come to Onkho. And the kind of examples that I've got there, so growth, for example, and these are very real examples, by the way, of inflection points that we are dealing with today as part of our onboarding process. Growth, have a customer who's just doubling the size of their practice, for example, by acquiring a new one. We have quite a few customers who are dressing to sell. Outsourcing, growing the team, but I think you kind of get the idea. The real definition of an inflection point is the point at which you need to start working on the business rather than in the business. And you need to free up time to do that. And the only way you can do that is that if you have a level of assurance that actually the service is going to run fine and your clients are going to get the service that you promised them. So that's all the slides, I'm glad to say. We are going to move on to the demo. I just want to tell you exactly what I'm going to do on the demo. Now, rather than do like kind of a navigation and show you all this stuff, I just want to get really into something that's very, very real. Two things which are very, very real and I think are relevant in accountancy today. One is, and we can, with COVID, it's really sharpened the mind around cash flow. And I do find that amongst our customers, there's increasingly a lot of thought given to the idea of producing data and information in a timely fashion. And that's one of the reasons why I chose this one. This is actually a very common service level that a lot of our customers are trying to achieve, which is the annual accounts done in less than 3 months. And I think one of the reasons why this is becoming what I would call ubiquitous, more and more of a common theme, is because of the cash flow conversation. I think cash flow conversations tell the clients that they need to think about timeliness of data, and therefore annual accounts being done 9 months after the accounting reference date, maybe not so great. The other one I'm going to demonstrate and talk about today is tracking ad hoc requests. And I have a very simple quote here, actually. And please, if you ever run into Susan, do tell her that I quoted her, right? Because that's brownie points for me. One of the things that Susan said to me many years ago about ad hoc requests, so, when a client calls up and says, I want a copy of the accounts, I need it. In fact, the anecdote with her was actually to do with a bursa letter. But the interesting thing about ad hoc requests, she said, was that it tells you what's important to the client at that point in time. And the interesting thing about that statement is that that's actually true. When a client calls up and asks you for something, a copy of accounts, last year's tax return, they want to speak to you or otherwise, they're not really caught up in the, is my VAT return, going to be done on time? Are my annual accounts progressing? There's something that's on their mind which is really important. And one of the things that Susan used to do, and some of you may do this as well, she used to have a thing called the Red Book. People would call up, she'd write them down, and then the staff would work their way through this physical diary and just tick stuff off. But she wanted to address that as part of practice management. And that's one of the things I'm going to show you today, which is how you can track ad hoc requests and prioritize those and get those done so that nothing slips through the cracks. Because very often, it's sometimes the ad hoc request and the failure to deliver that can put that kind of negative service image into a mind. So that concludes the slides. I just want to make sure that you can all see the dashboard. If you guys don't mind, if somebody can just pop on the chat and just let me know that you can actually see my web page at the moment, which says Onkho. Yeah, fantastic. Thank you. Fantastic. Thank you, Simon. So look, let's start with getting annual accounts done in less than 3 months. And what is the objective of what I'm trying to show you here? I'm not going to, as I said, go through a full navigation and all that. What I'm actually going to show you is how I can actually build that service level in Onkho and track and monitor it. Because if I can't do all of those things, then it's going to be very hard for me to achieve this, particularly if what I'm always doing is looking at just the due date, i.e. the 9 months after the accounting reference date. The other thing I'm going to do, by the way, I just want to mention this, is that I wanted to thank everybody for the advanced questions. And some of those questions that I received, I am actually going to address as part of the demo. And in fact, the first 2 questions that kind of came up was, there was a question which is, what is the unique difference between Onkho and other practice management systems? And the other one was, what is the one feature with Onkho that you believe is better than the competition? So I'm going to illustrate the answers to those questions as part of my demonstration today, which is a live demo, by the way, strictly no recordings here. The real answer to both of those points is that, the thing about Onkho is that it's not designed to run your business, right? It's designed to help you run your business in the way that you actually want. And therefore, customization, flexibility, concept called management by exception, which we're actually going to see today. And then in terms of very, very specific features, which we are going to touch on, we're going to see insights, which goes back to this point about how do you unlock practice management data. It is a very, very powerful reporting engine. Our planner is a unique view to us. Inbox, which is our communication hub, we'll be looking at that, and intelligent shortcuts. So I'll be calling these things out as we go through. So let's kind of get started. I'm going to be looking over to this side, which is why my head is tilted. So look, you're looking at the dashboard right now, and this is looking, let's say, somewhat sparse, somewhat great. And that's because actually the dashboard is completely customizable. You can build your own widgets here, you can add widgets and so on and so forth, and that is one of the things that we're going to do. But let's start with the idea of getting annual accounts done in less than 3 months. How do you actually go about doing that in Onkho? The most important thing here is that what you're actually doing is setting an internal deadline. And let me show you how that's done. So I've set up a service here. So in Onkho speak, by the way, service is something that you do for a client. A job is something that is each time you perform that service. So if we look at the services here, this is a standard service catalog. It has a whole bunch of things available out of the box, plus you can actually create your own. I'm just going to look at the annual accounts for company's house service. Now, in order to achieve this 3-month SLA service level, what I'm going to use is auto planning. And what I've done here is I've said that actually I want all of my accounts to get a standard internal deadline, which is 6 months ahead of the due date, which is effectively 3 months after the accounting reference date. Now, one thing I will say about internal deadlines, because I know that there's been a lot of talk about internal deadlines as a feature. I will tell you that, at Onkho, we never talked about internal deadlines because we always had them, because the truth is that accounting work has always had internal and external deadlines. The only difference is really that some work is very short tail. So for example, if you're doing monthly bookkeeping, for example, you don't have a lot of time to plan that I'm going to do this bookkeeping job on a Monday and then this one on a Tuesday. But the longer tail work you do. So the longer tail work is things like personal tax returns, annual accounts, confirmation statements, so on and so forth. And therefore, from day one, we've always had internal deadlines. So here what I've done is I've taken my annual accounts for a company's house service. I got a bunch of workflow steps in there. And what I want is for my annual accounts jobs to be automatically set an internal deadline, which is 3 after the accounting reference date. So having done that and having set up the service, we're now going to look at insights. And this is where we're going to talk really about, what you can do when you can unlock practice management data. Insights in Onkho is a very, very powerful reporting engine, and it works a lot like Excel. So what we're going to do is I'm going to look for all of the jobs which are related to annual accounts. So let's go to my Insight Builder, which is effectively a report writer. Works on filters. And the filter I'm going to choose is I'm going to look for where my service is annual accounts. Let's go for that one. And so this is the first I'm going to talk to you about management by exception. When I trained as an accountant, I'm a CEVA Pass finalist, by the way. When I trained as an accountant, when I was doing accounts prep, I was always taught to look at the whole of the trial balance. Let me tell you about management by exception. Management by exception is the idea that, hey, there's a whole bunch of stuff which is working really well in my business, and there's some stuff which may not be. As the owner of a practice, you need to focus your time on the bits which are not working or maybe not working, right? The stuff which is working and is humming along, why care? So why clutter your view? Try and zero in on the places where you can actually add value. And that's what management by exception is all about. And the way that I'm implementing this here is I'm going to look at the status of these jobs. And what I'm going to do, I don't care about the stuff which is completed. I only care about the stuff which hasn't been done. So what I'm going to say is, please show me all of my jobs which are related to the annual account service and where the status is not completed. So this is your first look, by the way, at the different statuses that we have in Onkho. Every job has one of these statuses. It's either not started, paused, or completed. So let me go ahead and apply that, and let's see what we have. Okay. So the other thing I can do here is I can customize my view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove a bunch of fields which I don't actually need. So I'm going to get rid of the description. I'm going to get rid of the service name because we know what that is. Going to get rid of total hours worked. Yeah, that all looks good, and I'm going to set that. Having done that, I'm going to move my clients over here. Actually, it occurs to me that I'm going to get rid of the job description as well because we know what that is. Right, so what do I have here? I now have a list of jobs. I can see the due dates. I can see the planned completion date. I think what I'm going to add here is maybe the accounting reference date just for comparison. Okay, so that should bring in the accounting reference date as well, and we can stack that alongside the due date and the planned completion date as well. Let's move that here. Having done all of this, I can now save this. So I'm going to save this, and let's call this Simon's to-do list. Do that. So that's Simon's to-do list. Now, the whole idea of saving it is that once I've saved it, I can actually come back to it at a later date. While I'm doing that, I'm going to go quickly back to the dashboard. And I'm going to do our very first widget. I'm going to unlock the dashboard. I'm going to add a widget, and I'm going to add the Insights widget. Now, the Insights widget is actually a very important widget. It's a widget which allows you to point a kind of dashboard widget, if you like, to a report that we've created. And I'm going to go ahead and configure that. So let me go and do that. You can see the report that we already created, Simon's to-do list. I'm going to save that. And I'm going to move it up here. I could maybe even change the color if I wanted to. Let's do that. Unlock the dashboard. So what have we just accomplished? Well, the first thing is we've actually gone and found the jobs that we're interested in. right? All of the annual accounts. The second thing that we've done is we've now got a metric that we can monitor on the dashboard. It means that every morning when I come in, I can click on this eye. It will launch my insight, and then I can actually work from this particular insight. Because actually insights aren't just reports in Onkho. They're actually fully functioning screens. And this is where you're going to see one of those unique features of Onkho. We have in Onkho the idea of what I call an intelligent shortcut. So the idea of an intelligent shortcut is basically anywhere that you see something important, there will be something that you can do. If you can see it on the screen, you'll see that there is a question mark now appearing. If I click that, it brings me up a shortcut, which is to do with the actual client itself. And I get a little bit of information here. I get details about the client, the reference, type of company that it is, and there's a bunch of other things that I can do. I can add a note, I can send an email to the client, I can send an SMS, I could create an ad hoc task for them, or I could actually just go and visit the actual client's home page, if you like. Incidentally, intelligent shortcuts don't just apply to clients, they also apply to jobs themselves. So if I have a look along here and look at the status, actually I can get access to the job as well. And if you remember back to when I showed you the configuration of annual accounts, you can see that all the workflow steps are accessible for me. I can change the status, I can tick off steps, I can mark something as paused, and so on and so forth. And this is really the idea of intelligent shortcuts. It's the idea that reflects something that I observed, because I'm a little bit of a stalker, to be honest, in my wife's office, which is that accountants very rarely do one thing at a time. You tend to be, you might be working on a set of accounts and then you get a phone call or something occurs to you. There's always stuff that you need to be doing, and you will very often be multitasking. This idea of intelligent shortcuts is our way of actually allowing you to multitask to the extent that's feasible through technology. So most of our customers, by the way, each individual user, not the practice, they will create their own insights to focus in on the things that they're interested in. They will launch that insight, which is their own personal to-do list, and they will simply work from this all throughout the day. And if I take the example one that I'm actually looking at here, and if I marked it as complete, it will actually disappear from the list. Because remember that our filter was for those jobs which are not completed. How does that help? Because back on my dashboard, I had 26 things to do. Now it's actually going to be 25. And if you had this widget which was only focused on the month, then obviously you'd be kind of working down towards zero. I think at some point we should ask Simon if that's actually true, and that he does sometimes end up with 25 things to do
all the time
on his list, right?
At least. I've got a couple of questions that have popped up.
Yeah.
Were you talking about the automatic job stages? What creates them automatically? Is it a month end? Is it the year end? What is it? A day of the year? Do you physically have to go in and automatically create them? How does that work?
So the way that works is that we normally bring the accounting reference date from Companies House, and then we will actually calculate the due dates ourselves. Now, there's a reason why we do that. The reason why we actually calculate the due dates ourselves is because look at where we are today, right? So we're in October, and let's say that you have a set of accounts which are due in November. If there's a set of accounts which are due in November 2020, there's also a set of accounts which is due in November 2021. And the important thing is that if you want to achieve an SLA like this, which is getting things done within 3 months of the accounting reference date, you've got to be able to forward plan. You've got to be able to see in the future. And the problem with Companies House is that Companies House only ever will, using the example that I just gave you, will only ever tell you that there's a set of accounts due November 2020. It will not tell you about November 2021. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of practice management, it's a very common complaint when people come to Onkho, is that, hey, one of the things I hate is that, I can't get the next job until I've completed the current one. But that's the reason, by the way. It's because those systems which operate like that, they will only ever take the deadline from Companies House, which means they only ever have the date for the next job. What we do at Onkho is we actually take the company's house regulation and we approximate their calculation, and that always gives people a forward view. Does that answer the question, Simon?
It does, yeah. And so you can have 2 jobs per service. So you can
absolutely,
have, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So for argument's sake, I've got a 31st of March 2020 year end that I don't want to file for whatever reasons.
Yeah.
I could have a March 2021 running at the same time as a March 2020.
Absolutely. And in fact, I mean, I'm about to illustrate this point here. One of the things that we do in Onkho is that we recognize that, look, the best will in the world. I'm not going to quote any vendors here. I'm just going to tell you my experience, right? Remember, I was doing free IT support for my wife for many, many years, right? And therefore, I dealt with a lot of very big name vendors in the accounting compliance stack kind of space. And one of the things that always irritated me was software vendors who rocked up to tell me how to run the business. I've never liked that. There was a particular salesman, and I really wanted to say to him that, look, dude, if you think you can run this accountancy practice better than we are, why don't you just go out and do it? Because we're making more money than you. I'm just saying, right? So how does that relate to what we build? Actually, you can change due dates in Onkho. You can change due dates. You can change internal deadlines. You could even add another annual accounts job manually if you wanted. We do not constrain or impose anything. Our view has always been very simple. The question, for example, was the one feature with Onkho that you believe is better than the competition, right? I will tell you something about Onkho, and it's something about me as well. I'm not in the business of building features. I don't build features. What I build is capabilities. So, for example, this insight report, this report writer, why did we build that? We built that to give you a capability to be able to find the data that you wanted, any which way that you wanted, using any type of filter, and then actually be able to work from it. And if you think about it, between the dashboard, this widget, and then launching this particular report, and my ability to actually work from here, keeping that report open, what I've actually done, I've just built my own personal practice management solution. Because there's another truth about accounting practices that we've realized over the years. Firstly, no 2 practices run in exactly the same way. It is extraordinary to me how different practices are in terms of the way that they actually organize and run themselves. The other thing is that no 2 people in an accountancy practice actually do the same thing. And therefore, the things that they're interested in are very, very different. And the classic example is that, look, if I'm a payroll clerk, this is the only thing that's common, by the way. This is true. The only thing that's common with all of our customers and every accountant I've ever spoke to is that if they have a payroll function, the person who does the payroll only does the payroll. That's the only thing that's common. Everything else is like, it's like the Wild West. But the payroll guy, he is only interested in payroll work. You present him with a screen which says, oh, these annual accounts are due and this is due and that. What does he care? He doesn't care, right? What he can do is he can create an insight which looks specifically at the payroll work so he can manage his work. But the owner of the business, they're interested in all services and therefore their view is different. And in Onkho, both the owner and the payroll clerk can get their own bespoke, effectively, practice management solution, along with these kind of widgets that they can create to actually track things down to zero. And in our case, I just want to bring this back to the whole point about annual accounts being done in less than 3 months. Here, sorry, Simon, did I think I developed the answer a little bit.
That you answered that first question just before, and I'll let you go again because I'm always conscious of the time when I'm interrupting people.
Fine, that's fine.
You almost click the SMS button.
Yes.
When you was So the question is, how does that work? Do you need an online provider of SMS? Do you need a mobile telephone that it's connected to?
No. So what we do is we provide you an SMS number. So you can either get a dedicated number of your own, or you can go for what's called an alphanumeric text, and that's all built into the system. So if you go to SMS, for example, here, you can see that I've already set up 2 numbers here. And I can actually send an SMS directly from within the app. So even from here, if I choose to send an SMS, I can, I'm just going to put in my own number, I suppose. Yeah, I'll just put in that one and say hello, and that will automatically send an SMS. I suppose the key thing about SMS, so there's 2 points I think I've mentioned which are relevant to your question, Simon. One is that you can set up an SMS number. You do not need a mobile phone. It's all built into the application. That's the first thing. The second thing is SMS actually in Onkho can be two-way. So you can send SMSs, you can also receive SMS. So if you want to have a two-way conversation on SMS, you can do that too. The third thing about SMS is that there is a cost associated with it. So every SMS is, I think it's typically about 5 pence per SMS. We make any profit on that, we simply pass the cost through to the accountant. So it's one of those services in Onkho. There's very few of these. I think this might be the only one where there is actually a metered charge for its usage.
And that does it. Those SMSs that you're sending and receiving, does it record it within the software as well? Is it?
Yes. Yes, indeed. Perfect. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. This goes to the whole point about unified client view and a single source of truth, which is really fundamental concepts in practice management 2.0. But anyway, I'm going to come back and I'm just going to refine this a little bit, right? Because here, based on the conversation that Simon and I just had, I said that we'll see the job from November 2020 and November 2021. But if I'm the person who's doing the work and I only want to focus on the stuff that's immediately coming up, my time window that I want to look at may be different. And I'm going to show you how you can do that. So let's refine this, right? I'm actually going to say, and remember, 3 months, right? And 3 months after the accounting reference date. Therefore, what I'm interested in is my planned completion date, not the due date. And I'm going to say, show me all the stuff where the planned completion date, because I'm going to work to the internal deadline, is in the next 3 months. Hopefully we'll get some data for this. And let me just explain what I'm doing here. I'm using what's called a relative criteria. Because I'm saying in the next 3 months, it means that whenever I run this report, it will always show me the stuff that is available in the next 3 months, i.e., I create the report once to match the window, the time window that I'm interested in, and then after that, I never have to change it again. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's make sure that we get some data. Yes, things are a little bit slow this morning by the looks of it. And I think that's because I've got the client accounting data there. Anyway, so I'm going to save this. Again, with my new criteria, so it's now only looking out. It's only looking out 3 months, and now what I know is that I've got to get these accounts done in the next 3 months, and if I do that, I will hit my target SLA of getting things done in less than 3 months. By the way, I can also share this with the rest of the team. So if I click on share with the team, that will take it everywhere. So let's just recap some of the key things that we saw here. Insights are a very, very powerful reporting engine. And it is the way, it is the feature, it is the capability that allows you to unlock all of your practice management data to use in the way that suits you, not just at a practice level, not just at an owner level, but actually down to the individual user. So key point here, every user in Onkho has their own sets of insights and their own unique dashboard. We don't prescribe the dashboard because I would never deign, after the experiences that I've had, to tell you what I think is important for you, your business, and for you in your particular role. We also saw the fact that by coupling it with a dashboard widget, I can effectively create my own practice management solution. This is a widget that is focusing in on the work that I'm interested in. So in this case, I think the number is going to go down. Now I know that there's 10 jobs that I've got to get done in the next 3 months. And of course, from our insights themselves, we just go back, I can actually work from here. I'll tell you that actually, statistically, Onkho users, they will normally open up a couple of insight screens and they'll have them open all day. The average dwell time, the average open time for Onkho on one of our customers' desktop is actually 4 hours. And for those who are using Inbox, which we're going to take a look at in just a second, it's around about 8 hours a day. So that's getting annual accounts done in less than 3 months. This is how you can actually set that up. And you know what? Because you can change auto planning, because you can change filters, create whatever SLA you like, right? Whatever suits you, whatever that plus is for you, in this world of Compliance Plus. I'm now going to move over to the second item in the demo, which is tracking ad hoc requests. And this is where I'm going to show you the inbox for the first time. So the inbox is basically a communication hub. And one of the things, for those of you who are with me today and laser focused, you'll realize that, you know, the SMS that I just sent, that's appearing here as well. So let me explain to you what inbox actually is. Inbox is actually a communication hub. The way to think about inbox is that inbox holds conversations. Conversation is like a bucket. And into that bucket, you can throw in notes, email, SMS, notifications from Onkho, notifications from any of the 2,500 apps available in the Zapier ecosystem. That includes things like Go Proposal, Practice Ignition, and throw them all into a bucket, label the bucket with something that actually makes sense to you. And I'm going to do a couple of examples here. What I'm going to show you is how you can handle those ad hoc requests and make sure that those things are getting done. So here's a couple of emails that I sent before. I'm very sorry, Simon, but you know, I kind of had to pick on you on this one. So anyway, so I've got an inquiry here. By the way, intelligent shortcuts, even from here, right? I get all this information. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into an ad hoc job. So let's copy this as a task because it's an ad hoc request. And now a job will have been created. This task here, R&D tax credits. Now, how can I track that? So look, you know, I don't know why I'm pausing. I shouldn't be pausing here, right? The answer is, of course, an insight, right? So let's go back to our insights. And this time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a different insight, which is going to just track the ad hoc requests. So let's go to my filters. We have a very special service, which is called request. And any ad hoc jobs that you create, right, from anywhere in the system, they will all get filed under this service. Again, management by exception, right? I only care about things that I haven't done. So status is not completed. And let's see what's in our list. Okay, so you can see that R&D tax credits request that I just converted from an email, that's appearing here. I can now save this. As a thought to my wife, I'm going to call this the red book because that's what she had. And then what I'm then going to do is, you know, it's kind of boring at this point, right? I'm going to go back to my dashboard. I'm going to unlock it. I'm going to add a widget. I'm going to add the insight widget. And then I'm going to configure that to point to my red book. Where's my red book? It's here. And for want of consistency, I'm also going to make it red. So for the first time, I can actually see not just annual accounts and work that I need to do, but across the practice, as the owner of the business, I can see all of the ad hoc work that also needs to get done. And the thing about the ad hoc work, just to remind you, is that, you know, as Sue says, the ad hoc work very often is the thing which is most important to a client at that moment in time. And of course, simple thing, if ever I want to look at this, I will click on here, it will launch my insight that I created, and from here, I can actually manage this piece of work, right? I can say that, yes, I've started it. I can actually go back to the client, by the way, because here, I'm going to look at the conversation, remember the idea of the bucket, for this particular client. So I'm going to send the client an email from here. I'm going to say our tax credits. Notice I'm going to change the subject of the email, by the way. Let's say your email, Simon. Okay, okay, Simon. Simon was right. Let's go with that. Simon was right. You are eligible. Let's talk. Maybe I'll include a link to my Calendly for them to actually go ahead and book that in. So I'm going to send that email straight away. That email will go out. You'll notice that the label of this conversation, by the way, is still R&D tax credits, 21st of October, 2020. It hasn't changed, even though the email actually has a different subject header altogether. After speaking to the client, I could then make a note, say, yeah, spoke to them. Good, let's do it. maybe what I will do is I'll assign this, actually, the job itself, I'm going to assign it to my R&D guy. So I'm going to go say, okay, let's go for John Starling, save it there, and I've actually just allocated the job. The conversation itself, by the way, I might add a note here, because somebody was asking about a chat function. It's one of the questions. I'm going to show you an approximation to a chat function. One of the things I may say is that please call the client and confirm we are progressing. And I may allocate this to somebody to do. But what I'm going to do is, rather than assign the job itself, I'm just going to assign the entire conversation. And I'm going to say that there's an action required, and I'll show you how this actually turns out. But I want you to notice something. I was working with the report. I just sent an email, added a note. I could even get a response to an email, do assignments, and I've done all of this without changing screen. And this is the power of intelligent shortcuts. It's the idea that you should be able to do most of the things that you would expect to be able to do without having to change your screen. Okay, so that's my conversation. Let's go back to our inbox and see what's actually happened here. So let me refresh that very quickly. You can see that this job now exists, and everything that happens across the practice comes into inbox. If I look at this one, this is the original conversation, the original email. What I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to organize this one. And what I'm going to say is that please push it back to the job, which was the R&D tax credits, I think it was. Yes, I'm going to do that and save that. And what that will actually do is move that entire note actually back into here. So now I've got all of the bits of my conversation which are relevant in this one place. So for example, here you can see that email is now part of this conversation, which means that this conversation I can now archive. And archiving basically removes it from the inbox. You can see that, you know, this is allocated to Anne. If I click on Anne, I can see all of the stuff which is allocated to me. One last thing I want to show you very quickly, just listen to the time, is I'm going to go back to our annual accounts, because I think this is better illustrated with more data. I want to show you some bulk actions. And I've got to tell you, a pet foible of mine is that I've always hated bulk actions in technology because they just never seem to work the way that I would like them to work. So this is honestly my own personal foible, right? My foible is I want to be able to select as many as I want, right? And I want to be able to do multiple things at the same time. So here's what I'm going to do with these. I'm going to change the assignment. That's the first change I want to make. And this is the bit, another piece which is unique to Onkho. You don't have one change at a time, you can apply multiple changes. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to set the status of all of these to be started. And I'm going to apply both of these changes to the 3 jobs that I've selected. So there's none of this, you know, go to a job and open up a screen and edit it, or go to an assignment screen. You can just do all of that right here from within the insights. The insights, as I say, is really the, it is the best feature in my opinion. Look at my smile, right? I really like this feature because there are very few things that we've come across. In fact, I can't name a single thing that our customers have brought to us which have not been solved by using a combination of insights and dashboard widgets. And that, by the way, is the difference between a feature and a capability. Capability is something that you can use alongside other capabilities to solve a specific problem that you have. So as you can see, we've changed the statuses of these 3 jobs. I've also changed the assignment, so I can actually do planning from here. But on that note, the last thing I want to show you very quickly is planner. So the planner is basically, it's kind of a scary view, right? It's a calendar-based view of all of your work. You may be familiar with this because it kind of looks like cards, I suppose. And you'll notice that I have 2 panes here. Again, like I said, everything in Onkho, by the way, is either customizable or it's optional. So here I've got 2 panes. The top is jobs due. So this is showing me all of my work by my external deadlines. The pane below is planned, which is showing me everything by my internal targets. And I can open this up I can change the time period that I'm looking at. I can warp backwards and forwards. We generate you a forward view, by the way, up to 18 months out. So you can go as far as 18 months. When you get to January, it's going to look a bit crazy, obviously, because there's all these tax returns to be done. And just to illustrate the point about intelligent shortcuts, even though I'm on a planner here, I still have access to intelligent shortcuts, right? I can start this job, I can change its status, I can mark it as completed, I can launch the conversation specifically for this particular job, I can send an email, and notice again, I'm doing all of this without leaving, oh, okay, that was unauthorized. I'm doing all of this without actually leaving the screen. And that, to me, is a reflection of actually a very simple point about what we do here at Onkho. Yes, we're very much focused on helping you deliver the best service that is possible to your clients, but try and do it in a way that's natural to you. And that's why a lot of the things that you saw today, the idea of dashboard widgets being configurable, the dashboard being configurable, having a powerful report engine, the idea of having an inbox that you can actually customize and work with, the idea of making these intelligent shortcuts available all throughout the system. They're all based on the fact that, yeah, I'm a stalker, I sit in my wife's office and I follow and watch what people actually do before we actually go ahead and build anything. And therefore, the genealogy, if you like, of almost everything in Onkho is from within my wife's practice, but also increasingly, and I've got to be honest about this because I think there are some of my customers on this call. A lot of innovation now actually comes from our customers. And actually now our customers are actually finding weird and wonderful things that they can do with Onkho, which are actually revelations to us. So almost every onboarding call I do these days is like a voyage of discovery. Simon, I was going to move back to the slides now. I think I've demonstrated the two things that I wanted to do, which was how you can build out SLA, how you can track the ad hoc requests. Is there anything else that I should cover very quickly?
Let me just, I've got a question from Paul about the emails.
Yes.
Are the emails within the system?
Yes.
And is it on your phone as well? So if somebody emails me in Outlook, how do I track Outlook or Gmail or whatever normal email system I'm using? And Onkho, how does that work?
Yeah. So what we actually do is Onkho will take control of what I call a shared mailbox. So for example, at my wife's practice, we've created a mailbox called Hello. So it's hello@kwsr.co.uk. That mailbox can be used on a mobile phone using your regular email client, right? So you can use it on Outlook or Gmail, whatever Thunderbird, whatever you use on your mobile phone. But equally, Onkho can actually interrogate and look at the same mailbox. So they're always in sync. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. So you have a shared mailbox that works with Onkho, and then if you've got your own personal email, then that keeps it separate. Thank you.
Yes.
I then got a question. All my data is currently on Excel.
Yes.
Can I get that into Onkho? How do we set it up? Is it as simple?
How do you set it?
It's a really simple process.
No, I'm not actually. I'm not going to say it's simple because it isn't. You know, anybody who tells you that it's simple is not telling you porkies. Because I'll tell you the challenge when you're bringing data from Excel is actually that the data does have to be cleaned, and that very often is left as a responsibility of the accountant. So the person who's asking the question, you know, most vendors will actually ask you to clean the data. We'll actually clean it for you. That's the difference. So we can't take some of the heavy lifting for you. And when I mean clean the data, the best example is, so for example, you know, I think about one of the widest spreadsheets I've ever dealt with had like 46 columns, right? And that was, it was kind of insane. But what we did, for example, is that to clean the data, we actually went to company's house, we pulled down all the information, the dates, we overlaid that, spliced that into her data. We then cross-referenced all of the names of the officers with the contacts that she had as well, because typically you have a limited company, you have a director, and then you do the personal tax for the director as well, and therefore both are clients. We do a lot of that cleaning for you. It can be time-consuming, but we will help you as much as we can with that actual process. And we have a very high-touch onboarding service, by the way, which is one of the things that I was going to kind of talk about anyway. Does that answer the question, Simon?
It does, yeah. And then the last one is price or investment, whatever language you want to use around it. Are you going to cover that off before you disappear as well?
Yes, I am. So look, Onkho pricing plans, we don't price per user, and I don't price by user. I've had various points in this business journey where people have asked us to do that, and we've always resisted. And the reason why I've always resisted is because actually users don't determine my cost. It's actually the number of clients. No two people access the same client at the same time, and therefore it's the clients that drive my cost, and therefore we charge per client. There was just related to this question, one of the questions that was asked is, what size practice is Onkho aimed at? This is one of the questions that came in advance. Our client numbers exceed your pricing. So this is the pricing. We charge $150 per client per month. Most people are actually on this kind of plan. And a client, by the way, if you have a limited company with 4 directors and you do the tax returns for all 4 of those directors, that's one client for Onkho purposes. And so that's the pay as you grow. It's kind of flexible, no contract. And then if you've got over 130 clients, and I think actually now most of our customers are actually in this kind of range, between 130 to 500 clients, it's a fixed $200 per month. Now on this point, beyond 500 clients, it is bespoke pricing. And to the person who asked the question that came in advance, our largest customer has 1,500 clients. So we support a wide range of practices. I don't, if you think back to the slide that I showed around who we serve, it's not really about the size of the practice. It's really about the owner. If you're the owner of an accounting practice and you are at an inflection point where you need to free up time to focus on something else, but you need assurance that the business is going to run without you actually being in it, that's an inflection point. And that's the point at which Onkho becomes very, very, I would argue, the only solution actually for you. Simon, does that answer the question on price?
It does. So just from a clarity point of view, if I've got over 500 clients,
yeah, we would do a bespoke price.
It's basically have a conversation and we'll agree how we can work together. Brilliant. Thank you.
Yes, indeed. I'm just going to go back to the slides for a second and to bring up this one here. Look, one of the things that I spoke about was this idea of practice management 2.0. And what I need to do, just bear with me a second, is go back to the end. Right. One of the things that I've done is I've prepared a handout on this whole idea of practice management 2.0. And as you go through the handout, you recognize that I've illustrated some of the core concepts in the demo today. So the idea of a single source of truth, the idea of a unified client view, and the idea of management by exception. Simon, I'm assuming that people can see the handout that I've just thrown up on the screen. And
definitely.
Yeah, fine. I apologize for having to keep checking with you, Simon. I just want to make sure that this is working fine for your community. That handout is available, and Mark is going to. I think Mark is going to make that available in the chat channel and possibly afterwards as well.
Yeah, there's the link to download. It's in the chat box, and we'll also put it on the email that comes out with the recording. So
fantastic. So with that in mind, it remains only for me to look at some questions, and I'm going to stop sharing at this point and put myself in glorious Technicolor here and look at some of the outstanding questions. One of the outstanding questions was, sorry, Simon, I was going to deal with some of the advanced questions that I haven't answered. Do you have any other live questions that you want me to deal with right now?
I don't. The only one that I think is just been reconfirmed is about prioritizing the workflow that we
yes,
talked about
okay.
Yeah. And just to say, the link to book a demonstration, a bespoke demonstration for you, is in the chat box, along with a handout, along with a LinkedIn reference, a LinkedIn URL, so you can connect.
Fantastic.
So all the details are in the chat box.
Right. So I'm going to run away in the next kind of 3 minutes, should I say, Simon? I'm going to race away in about 3 minutes and try and answer the outstanding questions. So one of the questions was, how does Onkho interface with other systems? So we use the platform Zapier, which should be familiar to a lot of people. That gives us integration with some very common apps in this space, like GoProposal, like Practice Ignition. The thing I'd say about GoProposal is they only just released their Zapier integration. I think it was last month. That's kind of in beta with us at the moment. We haven't actually hooked up a customer yet, but we have a couple of customers that we're going to be working with to do that. Practice Ignition, obviously via Zapier. There's one thing I'd say about our integration, by the way, is that we have what's called an open integration on Zapier, which means that any of the 2,500 apps on Zapier can actually post a message into Onkho, which will go directly into the inbox. You can target a client, you can target a conversation, you can even target a job. And to give you an example, one of our customers, what she does is she has discovery calls that are booked on her website using Calendly. When people book the call with her and answer some questions, some Calendly related questions, that gets posted into Onkho. So she sees when the meeting is coming and she sees all of the answers to the questions. It's one of the things that we're actually going to be using in Susan's practice to actually get a kind of personal tax questionnaire done. So we'll get people to fill out type forms. Those type forms will come back into Onkho via Zapier, and they will specifically target the personal tax return job, which is due 31st of January 2021. The last question, which Simon, I really wanted to answer this question, was about how many practice management propositions can the market bear? I thought it was a great question, but I'm mindful of the time. I could give you like 60 seconds on it, but I don't want to mess up the timing, and I do respect the allocation of people's time.
Brilliant, thank you. So can you just touch base on that prioritizing the workflow?
Yes. Yeah. Let me just cover that on the prioritization of the workflow. The thing is that, as I understood it, you've got all these different notifications, you've got all these different things that you're looking at. How do you prioritize it? The way that you do that is by building insights and widgets. Focusing on the things that you think are important, focus in on the things that you think need to be prioritized, and build an insight for that, slap it on your dashboard, and off you go. So it's the combination. Again, the answer to most things is insights, dashboard, widget.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And almost bang on time. So just to finish off before everybody disappears, as I said, the link to book the demo is in the chat box, and if you're watching this on YouTube, it will be in the comments below the YouTube video. The handout, the link to that will also be in the comments, and it's also in the chat box for you to go away and download it. And if you would like to connect with Emanur on LinkedIn, then the link's there, and you'll gladly think me. No doubt, if anybody's got any questions that they would like to ask privately, then if they connect with you through LinkedIn, they can send messages.
Absolutely.
And all the rest.
Absolutely.
Absolutely fantastic to speak to you as always. I know we had a bit of fun before we came on, and the technology's been rather sort of what should I say, unpredictable this morning. Let's use the word unpredictable. Perhaps it's something to do with the weather. So it's brilliant. We've got lots of thank yous coming through on the chat box. So thank you very much for coming along. Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you very much to everybody in the community that's come along and asked the questions this morning. That is fantastic. And that just leaves me to say again, thank you very much, and a round of applause for Emanur.
Thank you so much. Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Simon. And I look forward to hearing from people from the community. Cheers.
Brilliant. Excellent. See you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for watching that online demonstration with Emanur Rahman from Onkho. I am sure you found it enlightening. As always, please remember to like the video. If you've got any questions or comments at all, then post them below in the comments below. And also remember to subscribe to the channel in order to receive notification when we upload the next videos. You will see next to me on either side, whichever side they are, the end cards, which you can click in order to move on to the next videos. I hope to see you again soon.